Welcome COMS 532 class. Today I'm going to cover Chapter 20, Broadband and Home Networks. Let's get started. So why should we study broadband and home networks? That's easy. Broadband networking is a necessity in today's digital environment. Whether you limit your use to basic communications and entertainment or you use broadband in other aspects of your life, most people will agree it has become pretty ingrained into our daily lives. For me personally, I love having direct access to work-related communications on my cell phone. The more tech-savvy a company is, the better the communication, and overall, work runs more efficiently. Broadband has also become much more involved within our country's infrastructure. Our textbook even goes as far as to say it's becoming the backbone of national infrastructure. It's playing a key role in the distribution and managing of our energy. Finally, the economy. The economy has been a hot topic for quite some time now. IT-related jobs in one form or another account for hundreds of thousands of jobs in the United States. Broadband accessibility opens the door to unlimited amounts of information, which helps improve our educational system. And these networks also help healthcare providers give us the best care in the world. Slide 3 shows you the man credited with the invention of the World Wide Web. I had never heard his name until I read this chapter, so I thought I would put a face with it as well. Timothy John Berners-Lee from London, England, is the mastermind behind the internet. On the next slide, we will look at some of the broadband technologies that are available today. DSL stands for Digital Subscriber Line, which is high-speed internet that is offered through the phone company and uses your standard phone jacks to get internet into your home. Asymmetrical DSL is the most widely used. I've never really heard anyone call their DSL service ADSL, but what asymmetrical is a higher download speed versus upload speed. And that's generally how all service is set up, because consumers are retrieving more information than they're sending or uploading. FTTN or VDSL, very high bitrate DSL, is fiber to the node, which means fiber optics is used from the central office to the node that's in your neighborhood. However, ordinary Cat5 phone cords bring the internet into your home from the node. Last summer I was going to switch to AT&T's UVerse, and it wasn't until the installer got to my house before I found out that this is the type of service that they use. I and many of my neighbors really feel AT&T is misleading when they talk about their fiber optic service. It's only fiber optics for part of the way, not entirely. Cable, such as Time Warner, uses an upgraded coaxial cable that allows TV channels and or internet service to run through the same cable. Cable is more resistant to interference than phone lines, or DSL, but fiber optics is the best. That leads me to the next slide with FTTH, or fiber to the home. This is fiber optics from the beginning to the end and is extremely fast and secure. However, the costs are still too high for this to be a reality yet. But Google is making efforts in some major cities to see how possible it is and whether it's worth it. It's still in the testing phase. Broadband over power line is something I've never heard of, but the concept makes a lot of sense. Everyone uses power lines. Everyone has power lines running into their house. Well, that may be the case, but this form of broadband was very susceptible to interference and was quite frankly unreliable. It does still exist, but it's rare. Satellite broadband is fantastic if you live too far away from any other providers, so you can't get service. It works just like satellite TV, but gives you internet access instead. The two main providers for this type of service in the United States are HughesNet and Wild Blue. They're expensive, but if you can't otherwise get internet access, this method could be a blessing. On the next slide are two types of home networks, which are wired and wireless. The traditional method for a wired network is through an Ethernet cable. Some new housing developments provide structured wiring, where they wire the home for you so you have easy access and flexibility with how you set up your home network. If you have a custom home builder, it'd be best to have an Ethernet run throughout the house, rather than a Cat5 phone cable, because those limit you to DSL. Wireless networking at home comes in several forms: mobile, which we're all familiar with, is the 3G and 4G technology that cell phone providers advertise all the time. Wi-Fi is wireless networking that comes into your home or business and is wired to the router, or a less common name is residential gateway. The router allows you to not only gain access to your network wirelessly, it also has additional ports that you can physically wire other devices to. Bluetooth is wireless communication between two devices, and Zigbee is a form of wireless service that I've never had experience with, but uses the same method of transmission as traditional Wi-Fi. A couple notes about security on the next slide, mainly concerning wireless. For wired connections, your means of defense are really software-based, firewalls and scanners. When you set up your wireless network, you want to make sure that you're using the best security option that your particular router supports, because every router is different. WEP is secure, but someone that knows what they're doing could easily hack into it. WPA was the next step in security that focused on fixing the WEP security flaws and also uses 128-bit encryption, which is a significant improvement. WPA2, hopefully your router supports that, because it's the upgraded version of WPA, which is going to provide you with the most security of them all. Remember to secure your devices as well. These methods are only protecting the network from being breached, but you're still vulnerable through the internet itself. The next slide lays out the National Broadband Plan. Goal number 1 of this plan would allow at least 100 million U.S. homes affordable access to 100 megabit download and 500 megabit upload speeds. Goal number 2, the United States should have the fastest, most extensive mobile networks in the world. Goal 3, every American should have affordable access to broadband. Goal 4, every community should have affordable access to at least 1 gigabit service. Goal 5, every first responder will be equipped with access to a wireless nationwide public safety network. Goal 6, every American should have the ability to track and manage their energy consumption. These are all things that are being worked on currently, but they're not there yet. The next slide outlines some controversial possibilities for broadband as we move forward. The first is known as net neutrality. That's where internet service providers have the ability to block or prioritize web access. They can lead to biased agendas or steering users to higher priced goods and services. That's the downfall. The concept is being debated, but in 2010, the courts did rule that the FCC had limited power over internet service providers, so the debate continues. 80% of broadband in the United States is provided by cable companies. With all the streaming capabilities through Netflix, smart TVs, and so on, there is concern whether a limit will need to be set on bandwidth in the future. This brings up the possibility of usage-based pricing, like what most cell phone providers offer. That would completely change the affordability and usage of Wi-Fi in home networks overall. And quite frankly, I think it would be a huge shock to the industry. The final slide has 2 questions to choose from. The first one, how do you feel about the idea of net neutrality or censoring of the internet in America? The other question you can choose from is, do you see America taking the more affordable and accessible path with broadband in the future, like the National Broadband Plan suggests? Or do you believe demand will drive up prices through usage-based plans similar to those used by mobile devices? That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching.